Please tell us your full name and spell it as you would wish it to appear.
Terance Bailey Sr., Tarencebe.
Can we wait on that? Are you picking that up? That engine is too loud?
No, I don't even hear it.
Okay, great. Terance, please tell us where we are and why this place is special.
This is Spring Grove Cemetery, Denton, Maryland, established in 1888. It was brought to fruition by the Baileys and the Waymans of Caroline County, family members of Frederick Douglass and Bishop Alexander Wayman, the 7th Bishop of the AME Church.
Tell us a little bit about the Bailey family historically and some of the things they may be known for.
Well, the Baileys here in Caroline County are known for entrepreneurship over on what is now Market Street. There was a Bailey grocery store there. These are descendants of Stephen Henry Bailey, the first cousin of Frederick Douglass. So there was a grocery store called the Bailey grocery store, and then you go over on Lincoln Street. The Baileys and the Waymans established the Bailey Wayman School for the Colored during segregation, and right after the Civil War, for kids to be schooled, and along with the AME Church and several houses and whatnot, the meeting hall and whatnot there on Lincoln Street, and then there was a pretty sizable Bailey farm on the outskirts of town.
What do you know about the Columbian Harmony Cemetery?
That's the
one that about where the stones are in the river.
Okay, yeah. Well, that cemetery. I mean, it's a shame that place was what was done to that cemetery was very disrespectful. Very to have those graves desecrated and whatnot. I think that's a cautionary tale. The whole story behind Columbia Harmony. This is why that cemetery is a poster child for the reason for historical preservation.
Has there been any challenges with this cemetery and kind of keeping it up? And
Not to my knowledge. I think there's a board over this cemetery, and they do a very good job. They keep the grass cut, whatnot. Now, I mean, quite naturally, everything could use improvement. Like myself, I think this cemetery in particular needs a historical placard. You have soldiers here from the Civil War, the colored troops. You have Stephen Henry Bailey, first cousin to Frederick Douglass, and his son George Washington Bailey, who fought side by side at the Battle of the Crater in the Civil War, who are both buried here. So I think it needs fencing, but the problem is there's an easement that goes directly right through the cemetery for public access, and which I think that's an injustice. To have a public easement going through a historic cemetery. So I think there can be some improvements, but currently the people who are over this cemetery do a really good job.
Tell me your relation to Frederick Douglass, and then please expand that into a little bit about the Frederick Douglass descendant and extended family community and what you guys do together.
Well, I'm a 5th generation grandson of Perry Bailey, the older brother of Frederick Douglass, firstborn of Harriet Bailey. Frederick Douglass is my 5 times great uncle. We share his mother was my 6 times great grandmother. Frederick Douglass, he was born here, in the Tuckahoe, and he basically took his talents, abroad, But the Bailey family, for over 100 years after the Civil War, have turned out to be entrepreneurs, civil rights leaders, prominent bishops, and pastors, and really have carved out a historic place in Talbot and Caroline County and Queen Anne's County, and Dorchester. I guess you could say we ran all up and down everywhere from Wilmington, Delaware, all the way down to Cape Charles, Virginia. You can find some Bailey family members that are business owners, local leaders in the church and in the community, and I personally am very proud of that.
Do you feel a responsibility, or have you your whole life, to kind of carry on some of the greatness that has been in your family for generations?
I try to make sure that I'm not living through the accomplishments of family members who've come before. I think everybody, when you look at what they've done for me, it tells me that I need to find my place. What can I contribute? Saying that's me. Not living vicariously through ancestors, but taking the example that they left and carrying on the work of things that I believe that need to be done. And I think that's my own personal accountability to make better to make what I find better, or improve a space for someone else.
Got it. Columbia Harmony, I think we can all agree, is an example of really the worst thing that could happen to a historic black cemetery. But I think Spring Grove overall is a fairly positive outcome, that this goes back to the early 1800s and is still here. Could you kind of speak on that a little bit, and just about what you've heard about other cemeteries, or just how they've been treated, and why do you think that's the case?
I think with Spring Grove, what you have here is a much better African American organization when it comes to preserving our ancestors, or preserving our dead and the legacy of our dead, and in that you got to have good allies, because a lot of these cemeteries, even having good organization didn't help them, because you got to say the white supremacy. If there's some individual who thinks that that piece of land where some black folk are buried would make a great place for some condominiums or a parking lot to support his or her business, and they can grease a few pockets uptown, then they're going to get that. They're going to do their best to get that land. That's where allies and good organization comes from. You need that to combat this. A lot of the problems that we have in the black community is that when the people who die off, who are related to the people who are buried in the cemetery tends to get neglected. That's when you need places like, we need more African American historical societies, African American historical clubs, African American historical preservation boards. We need one in every, as many of them as we can get in every place there are, that this is their job. Stuff like this, that it doesn't matter how many people die off who are related to the people in the ground. There's always going to be there's an organization that's standing back and watching and saying, okay, well, if you neglect that, we're stepping in, but it's not going to be neglected. That's not just for cemeteries, but that's for historic buildings and communities. We don't have an African American historical society here. We do plan on starting one. The Bailey family does plan on starting one. But you need these places that are dedicated to the history, that when anybody drops the ball, there's somebody there to pick it up. This is the problem a lot with our community, that when somebody drops the ball, it's dropped. For the most part, it's dropped, and it rolls down the hill. But there needs to be somebody there to catch it, and that goes back to organization. That goes back to a willingness to do the work. Also, we have to fight our egos. I feel like, if you're doing work in the community, that's nothing to poke your chest out about. It's only reasonable service. You're doing what you're supposed to do. There's nothing to walk around and brag about by doing work in the community. It's reasonable service.
Now, as I understand, you had ancestors whose stones were at the Columbia Harmony Cemetery.
That we believe that our great-grandfather Perry's stones may have been there.
What are your thoughts about the stones ending up in the river, and do you think they should be removed from the river and brought to where the bodies are?
They should definitely be removed and brought back to where the bodies are, because they're effectively stolen property. when they moved those tombs, when they moved those graves, and those people, those families owned those stones. They were nobody's. They were not to be taken by anybody who did not purchase them, or somebody who was not a descendant of the individual who that stone belonged to. Those stones were family property. So those stones were stolen, and I think I was told it took over 30 truckloads or something like that to move those stones. So it was deliberate. I mean that is egregious racism. That someone thought that they would steal someone who they felt was less dead. Someone who was less dead because they were just regular old black folk. So some people consider them as being less dead. Take their stuff, their family's belongings, and say, well, I'm going to use this to protect my shoreline because my property is worth more than your family's memory or your legacy. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to. I mean, that is the most that is egregious. That is you can't say that you're not worth much any worse way than that.
Absolutely. What would it mean to you if your ancestor's stone was found from the river and it was able to be identified? Would that be a powerful moment?
Yeah, that would be very powerful, and the fact that our family members who never seen his tombstone, never were able to visit his grave. He died in 1880. For our family members who had never been able to see his grave, never seen a picture of him, that would be the closest that any of us would get to being able to touch him. Would be to find that tombstone, and that would be the closest that any of us would be. I can jump in my car right now, and drive to Rochester, New York, and lay my hands on Uncle Frederick's grave. I can stand and look. I can literally stand 6 feet from his body, 6 feet over his body, but we can't do that with his brother, our 5 times great grandfather. So finding that tombstone means getting him, or the closest thing we can get to him.
Amazing. Anything else you'd like to say about this project, the Columbia Harmony, the story in general?
I would say that the governors of Maryland and Virginia need to come together and get this done. This is about righting wrongs, and Maryland and Virginia have a shared responsibility in doing that. This is beyond politics. There's no party lines with this. There's no policy no different policies or nothing like whatever. If you got a policy that would not allow you to do this, you need to revisit your policy and your platform. You need, but these governors need to get together and put money behind this. You got people willing to do the work. You don't necessarily have to put state personnel on the ground, except for to make sure that no local violations are being screwed with. But other than that, this is too easy. Just need people to do the right thing.
Gentlemen, any questions?